Anytime you meet a successful person, they have learned that.
Optimize. Yeah. And I think it's just being aware that like the quality of your decisions can decline. It's not mental energy so much as like your decision capacity can actually change.
And it changes over the lifespan. That's really important to remember. For adolescents, first thing in the morning is not the best time. And lots of schools are now engaging in this fact. And, my youngest who's in high school, his high school starts at 9:00. And my eldest, who's 10 years older and now a graduate student, when he was in school just 10 years ago, school started at 7:30. And you can see the difference. It's also true that across the lifespan, these things change. And so you want to be sensitive to the fact that the time that's best for you and I is definitely not the time that's best for a 14-year-old.
How does, let's call it wisdom, affect your decision making? And I say that because decisions I would have agonized over even 5 years ago, now I make without thinking about it because of experience and age, wisdom, knowledge.
I would say that there are two aspects here that happen as we age. And we know a little bit about the psychology of neuroscience. One is we just get a lot more data. I mean, the amount of stuff I know today compared to the amount of stuff that I knew. And if you ask me a question, I can say, I kind of faced that decision 50 times. And 3 of them went great and 20 of them went really badly. And that's information either intuitively or explicitly and cognitively I can access. One way to think about wisdom is to think about, I just have more information. The second way to think about it is I had a lot of training in making decisions, and I've had a lot of positive and negative reinforcement in making decisions. And so it's not just that I have more information, but that I've trained up these networks, learned which networks work well for me. We talked about the many different networks interacting to generate a decision, learning how to use some and suppress others. That's something that we're also doing as we're training over the course of our lifespan. This is sometimes thought of in psychology circles as the difference between fluid and crystallized intelligence. Younger people are actually faster, better general purpose decision makers, but they have less data. And as you cross 35, 40, the bad news is your fluid intelligence starts to decline. I mean, this is really terrible, and people my age are not yet staring down the throat of the worst of it, but I can already notice it. And so I'm depending more and more on crystallized intelligence as I'm aging. But that crystallized intelligence, is an asset in many circumstances, particularly the ones I'm well trained in. So I think that what we should imagine is that across the lifespan, as we're moving towards our mid-30s, early 40s. I mean, when I speak to corporate audiences, I always talk about this. Those are people who can face novel situations most efficiently. And as we're thinking about decision makers in their 50s and 60s, those are decision makers who can face situations in which they have experience most efficiently. And so that's really, I always say this to CEOs, like CEOs tend to be in the fully crystallized state of life. And I always say, don't be embarrassed by that. Like, that's not a bug. There are some things you're going to be really good at and some things you're not. And if it is a dynamic, completely unanticipated new circumstance that you've never seen, get a younger colleague, ask them what they think. Don't be embarrassed. You're really good at something. They're really good at something else. Use that complementarity in an efficient way.
Great advice.
I think you're talking to a lot of people there, just with everything how quickly the world's changing with AI.